to show you in detail our SS Camaro twin turbo daily driver. This car, it just pretty much kicked our ass. There was a lot to be learned on this thing, a lot of computer integration, and we spent a lot of time, you know, with details in this, trying to make it look super subtle. So as you see, we'll give you better shots in the daytime, but it just looks like a stock SS Camaro, and that's what the owner wanted. We really pushed for everything to look factory. So let's go take a look under the hood as our first nice little detail section. So it doesn't really look like it, but there's just so many little details about the car that we thought about and kind of made happen. So, for example, even opening the hood right there. Let's take a look. We went ahead and made dual custom gas shocks for the hood. Normally it has one and it's mounted close to the inner fender, but that was interfering with our turbo system. So, I mean, it looks pretty factory the way we made those gas shocks on the hood. Now, of course, more importantly is the engine package. Now, this is a 427 cubic inch LS. It's got our X-Ram intercooled intake. This is our very first intercooled X-Ram. And on that, you know, we made a rapid prototype, then we 3D printed it, flowed it, dyno tested it. If you look inside of here, you really can't tell, but these are where the water to air intercoolers are on the intake. And from the intake, it goes to twin 90mm drive-by-wire throttle bodies. We went ahead, took them apart, welded on V-bands, had them all wrinkle coated. And then from there, we've actually hand formed, these are our NRE 72mm mirror image turbos. We actually hand formed, we made a wood buck and hand formed these transitions from 2.5 to 3.5 V-band. Hand shaped them, welded them, fitted them all up, and it just really looks really slick. Another really neat feature is these reservoirs right here. That is a water to air heat exchanger reservoir for the intercooler on this side of the plenum, and there's a water reservoir for this side of the plenum, and then this is the power steering reservoir. All of those we made actually a steel buck and hand pounded those parts out and then welded them up, you know, welded in the caps and, you know, made a nice little bracket for them. You know, they kind of look just like they were meant to be, but quite a bit of time and labor went into those to make it look really mellow. You'll notice on a normal Camaro, in this area right here is normally an ABS brake unit. Now the ABS brake unit now is underneath the cowl. So everything was replumbed underneath the cowl, which I'll throw some pictures in there, how we replumbed it. And another couple of things that we did that you probably wouldn't notice is we ended up cutting the cowl back here just to make sure when the engine rocks under power that the X-Ram wasn't going to hit the cowl. But that ended up interfering with the windshield wiper linkage. So we went ahead and modified the windshield wiper linkage, which I'll throw some photos in. And they work perfect, but you'd never know that they were all modified. Built a, obviously, dual 3-inch exhaust. All the AC lines, we redid all the AC lines. It's kind of a view from this side. And we went ahead and V-banded the air cleaner outlets and you know, made reservoirs for the overflow and all sorts of things. But here is your basic overall view of this thing. really stoked and proud of how that came out. It just looks like it was made to be there. Now this motor made over 1,000 horsepower on pump gas at the crank, and on a real mild tune, 13 pounds of boost, it made 770 to the rear tire. And we ran it at the track, had the owner drive it for the first time, and it went 1070, 137 miles an hour on pump gas through the stock computer. The thing actually weighed 4,700 pounds, but 137 miles an hour in a 4,700 pound car that gets 20 inches of manifold vacuum and literally drives better than the original one did. Super stock and super sleeper. So way stoked on that. Obviously, once he gets some 60 foot in the thing, it's going to be, you know, high 9-second car. All right, let's go check out a couple more details. All right, so here's a rear view, stock pretty much, unless you really notice some stuff. And you'll notice here we tried to hide it, but here's our legal power on off. And oh shit, there's a parachute mount behind the license plate. Let's pop the trunk here. Take a look in the trunk. You'll see that we've actually got the parachute all tied in through the main bumper, tied into the roll cage. And we've got a our switch for the power right there, but functional trunk. We went and reupholstered it stock, so you can actually use the trunk if you like. But again, very functional, very stock. And then you take the plate off, bingo, there's your parachute mount. All right. All right, so we are driving the wolf in sheep's clothing. This truly is that name. I mean, this thing, I forget when I'm driving it that it's actually badass, because it drives around, you start doing business, you're making phone calls. The thing is basically like an everyday factory car, but then when you get in it, it's crazy. So right now we're going to do the drive part, where we're just going to show you how insanely mild and mellow this thing is. So this car basically, it was an extreme challenge because of all the computers had to talk to each other through CAN. So it's got a twin turbocharged 427. We did something trick, which was it's a dual drive-by-wire twin 90mm throttle body, and we have our special X-Ram intake that's intercooled. So the intercoolers are actually in the intake manifold themselves. So I mean, it idles right now at 750 RPM at like 20 inches of manifold vacuum, which is just insane. And you get it on the freeway, it's going like 75, just going, you don't even realize how mellow it is. It's the epitome of a daily driver, but a daily driver that can rip a hypercar. So OnStar works, our heads-up display works, everything in this car that came AC, everything in this car functions like it did from original. You know, we've done all the right things as far as upgrading the rear end, upgrading the transmission, drive shaft loop, big drive shaft, Super Duty, you know, forged internals, you know, 6-bolt head blocking heads. But in the end,
You know, there's a market out there for guys that just want a driver, but when they want to scare themselves, they can. And this pretty much is that car. When you look at it from the outside, it's just all stock. And that's what the owner wanted. He wanted it to look stock, to feel stock, but be able to go to the track. We took the car to the track. I really can't show you that footage because it's going to be used for somewhere else, but on a street tire, 1070, 137 miles an hour on pump gas, and the car weighed 4,700 pounds. We've got a programmable 4L80. So all the adjustments to the transmission can be made on, you know, tranny temperature, 138 degrees, battery voltage. I can go in and change shift RPM, tighten up the shifts, more tranny pressure, all through this. But it's still just, you know, I've got it set on mush just because it's on mush when you're light throttle, and then when you get in it, it just gets crazy.
Electronic throttle body. Okay, what you're looking at here is our new twin turbo intercooled X-Ram LS intake. So we've got some really special things we've got going on here. This is a 427 cubic inch motor. We're running dual drive-by-wire throttle bodies, so it's electronically controlled throttles, twin 90mm throttles. We've got our really special X-Ram runner, all pitch and taper angle, the whole nine. And then we went ahead and we've built water to air intercooler in between, so you've got your plenum volume and then your intercooler, and then it shoots into the runner here. So there you have it. So that's a 14.7 pounds of boost on that pull. We added a little bit of timing and a little bit of gas, and you can see the torque number is now at 1,000 horse and 1,038 foot-pounds at 6,000. With 972 at 4,300, you still got 771 at 3,800. So pretty nice, pretty stout, still pretty climbing. Very happy with that. The air fuels look good. So there's your 1,000 with a splash of gas. All right, so got our SS front end, and if you look really close, get my finger in there, we'll probably shoot to a shot of the photos, but our heat exchangers for the intercoolers, we've got two of them right at the mouth of the car right there. So you probably can't see it well, but that's okay. I'll put in a photo for you guys. There's the heat exchangers that are right there, and then we'll climb out of the car, and you can see the relays for the pumps for those heat exchangers. Our electric pumps for the heat exchangers. There's our little relay for each one, and the fans that go on the heat exchangers. Actually, here's all the ignition coils. So we've mounted the ignition coils to the bottom of the frame rail, got them off the valve cover. You'll notice the undercarriage is a little dirty. That's because this is the driver. So that's what they want it, and it really works well. As we're climbing down here, it's got a dual 3-inch exhaust. You know, nothing crazy, but definitely flows good. We've got a super modified 4L85. It's got a really bitchin' yank converter. Inside, we've got 300M input, 300M intermediate. All of the tranny is just built to the hilt to be able to handle this kind of horsepower and this kind of weight. Really nice transmission, and it shifts just like stock. Follow the transmission back, and this is going to be a difficult one to actually get a view of. Yeah, maybe really difficult. At any rate, the transmission mount, we made a custom transmission mount, as you can see, but that incorporates the drive shaft loop. So the transmission mount has the drive shaft loop built into it. Of course, with that, we've got a nice billet yoke and a really nice drive shaft that we did. Take a run down here and show you guys the fuel system. Pretty basic, but the tank's got 3 pumps in it. They're all continuous duty pumps, and then we've ran fuel line to and from on the return. We've got a little inline filter, and that just goes and feeds up to the motor. But another deal that is super important on a turbo car is fuel supply. Now going back, another super important deal is we've got this ZL1 center section. Independent. It is a monster compared to stock. I think I do have a photo of the actual two sitting next to each other. Got these special axles for that rear, and definitely don't want to sit there and blow the rear end out once you're starting to make power. Here's another trick deal. Is this used to be a spare tire deal right here, so we actually cut the floor and raised the floor up, did a little bit of trickery, a bead roll, and kind of actually matched the factory paint, which is, you know, so it's kind of like off and on of that color, the way it was painted originally, just to make it look like it was factory. But the reason why we did that is to house this huge transmission cooler, because we wanted to make sure that the transmission was getting good cold fluid. So it picks up air from the back here, and it's also got twin fans, and it's a nice set trap unit. It actually worked really good. We put this on there, and the tranny temps just stay nice. But if you look from the back, even up on the lift, you don't see it, which is cool. Sleeper again, right? All right, on to the interior. So we really wanted to maintain that stock feel of the interior. So we went to great lengths to do certain things. Like, for example, this is an automatic, but we kept the stick, and we rebooted it and made it look still kind of like it was a stick, but it's a, you know, 4-speed pattern deal there. The cage. If you look here on the dash, you can see how tight the cage hugs the pillar. Okay, and then on that we went ahead and cut the dash and then made this little panel, so it's not really that noticeable that it's caged. You know, from the outside you really can't even see the cage. Of course, on the inside, when you look up, of course you got to have a chute release. Got to turn the boost up a little more to really need that chute. But
there we go. That's a good one. So take a look at the cage. We made removable door bars. So look at that, how we tucked that cage down in there by the sill. So it's really not in anybody's way. And you come up and bam, put your removable door bar in when you want to go to the track. Let's see if I can get a view of the, try to get the ceiling up there, James. So there's a good view of the cage and the roof. And we were able to make the headliner in one piece like the original, so it looks slick. It looks like the original headliner. Well, it actually mostly is. But we were able to fit that with the cage. And, you know, I don't know. Those little things, they matter to me. You know, they take a lot of extra time and a lot of extra money, but they're worth it in the end. So here's a view of the cage. We've got the chute release going through the bar there. Pretty snazzy.